in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to Church Farm. We'll just do another little walk through today, and we'll see what's going on. It is October 27th, and so we're heading into winter, which is most unfortunate because we're actually going to get really busy here just before Christmas. We've got another house that's coming in towards the end of November. That was delayed a little bit. We've been struggling to get timber. The glue lambs, which are coming from Europe, have been on a slight delay. The windows are on an even longer delay at the moment. Trying to sort doors, door frames, a special door frame from a company called Eclise, and all of a sudden they're on a huge lead time for a lot of the trims and frames and stuff that we need. So that is most unfortunate, but we've got plenty to do, and hopefully the weather will hold up. This is the first decent day we've had, and we can get a lot done. So let's take a look around site. You see down there, they're pouring the flowing screed in plot 7. Once that's in, we've got, oh gosh, probably a good couple months for the floor to dry out, unless we can get some heat in there. But we don't have any services yet, because that's another thing that's on a bit of a delay. But good news is I got an email saying that they'd reallocated the water installation to the utility installing contractor. So now we can go ahead and try and book that in. So when I go home, I'll see if I can't get that booked in for as soon as possible, really. Although I'll need to find somebody else probably to do that, because we're going to be so busy keeping in front of everybody else. We've got the roof coming for next week for plot 9 and the 5 damaged panels that we had from plot 7, so we haven't been able to finish that off. Also, we were waiting on some unusual swan necks for the gutters, so we can't put the gutters on until we get swan necks, because they had to specially make. So I don't know if those are coming with this roof stuff or not, but
what was it with the damaged panels then?
Well, the panels have been sitting on site since March, because we didn't have the gutters and the eave plates, so we couldn't set it up, and we didn't get those until last month, just because of the lockdown. And Katnick were understaffed, and there were a lot of people on furlough, and obviously people just trying to figure out how to work during lockdown. And so yeah, that's what the delay was. Now of course we've worked out most of the snags on all this kind of stuff. We'll be ordering the windows for plot 8 this week, but because of the new lead time, we probably won't get those until December, and some of it, like the big glazed screen, because that's a special, what they call a special, that's on a longer lead time, which is the end of January. So I've got windows coming for plot 2, which is the barn conversion, and plot 8, but some of it's not going to be until the end of January. So just that gives you a good idea of kind of how things are working at the moment. We've got tons of stuff to do, but when the weather's not good, obviously we need this plot up in order to have something to work on for the joiners internally out of the rain. But we are going to get to the point where they're going to be outside no matter what, really, unless it's really bad. Just because obviously you got to crack on, and this is England, and the weather's crap.
So how long ago did you order these windows for this plot?
Plot 9, well, it was probably 12 weeks ago. It was more than that, because obviously they should have finished this 2 weeks ago, the install. So I don't know. I don't like to think about it. It's been that long. That's why with all the remaining units, we have to literally call the SIPS off and the windows off and the roof off virtually all at the same time. Because we just can't, we can't put the SIPS up and then call it off, because by that time we've lost 3 months. So Tom,
Yeah.
the bottom of this frame then lines through with that one, yeah?
That one there?
Yeah.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which is basically,
haven't really checked it much. I'll double check it, but I've had to go off this steel for the height of this one.
Right.
Because it's had to take a little bit off this concrete.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
take 10
basically,
mil off.
so if the floor were a little bit high, it wouldn't matter, would it? But more or less, we need to try and keep them all the same throughout the house, isn't it? Because when the screed is installed, which we'll see when you go into plot 7. So, but there's a lot of work in these 2 plots. What have you done?
What have I done?
What's that?
You'll not see that one.
Oh, here we go. What you won't see. It's quite a complicated thing. So obviously, he's got to make sure that everything, the base, the threshold's lined through with everything else. But it's also got to line through with this piece of steel that's like forms a wind bracing for the windows because there's so much glazing. And then they'll have a machine here as well that will help them glaze actually, because they're triple glazed units. But obviously they're huge, so they're just too heavy for them to lift into position. And let's make it a lot of noise. Is it all right? What bit of it's not working?
It's this motor here.
Oh, all right.
Sorry about that. Yeah, where were you?
We also cleared along this fence line because we need to plant the hedges that go in here, and we want to plant during bare root season, which is during the winter. But really, again, we were hoping to start all the cladding last week, but the weather wasn't great, and they had to keep dropping off to do some other things to keep other things moving along. Because once the roof and the cladding is complete, they can drop the scaffolding. And externally, that's the vast majority of the stuff is finished, and that just means we can do all the groundworks. And so we're very anxious to get that done, and just to see it really. I mean, we've seen pictures, but we don't know what it's really going to look like. So, but I'm excited to see it. So
when's that booked in for then? Sorry.
Well, it could. If we go back around to the front, I'll show you what they're going to start with. All right. Everything all right? Oh, okay. I was just talking to the screed guys.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I've heard that something's gone wrong.
Well, basically, the batch that showed up wasn't right, and luckily these guys are smart enough to realize this is Robinson's, who has done all of our. They used to do our subfloors as well, and sometimes we use a flowing screed so that it's perfectly level. In this case, we put the subfloor in, and then they come along, they insulate it. Then the underfloor heating people come in, they put their pipes down, and then these guys come back again and they install this screed. It's an anhydrate screed, which is very conductive to underfloor heating. So you can use a 50 mil screed as opposed to sand and cement, which I think is a minimum of 70 mil. And obviously, the smaller amount that you use, the less you have to heat up to then release the heat. So this is a product, it's a very sensitive product in terms of making sure that it's dried out properly, that it is the right spec and everything else. But it has been used a lot now. The first time we used it, we had some problems, but that was 12 years ago maybe. So we've pretty much got it down now, but you've got to be very careful with it. So anyway, that's what they're doing, basically. Getting its technician out from Tarmac who's going to check it, make sure it's right. And they've got another wagon coming anyway, but it's not something you'd want to dig up, that's for sure. It'd be a problem.
Do you want to show us the setup inside?
Yeah.
And the cladding thing, did you
Yeah,
want to
I'll show you that real quick here. This is just a sample piece. It's actually only about 68 mil, the ones that go on the face. This is the same material that's here, but just to give you an illustration of what would happen, it basically fits on like that against this gasket. That provides a separation between the timber. It just helps with longevity of timber, and protection. Obviously all of this stuff is treated, and then it's all painted as well, which and it's mainly painted black, you know, just so that it's hidden. And you've got these little spacers. So over here you've got 15 mil. So you've got this gap running down the side. But what you get, that's 15 mil, and that's also that you get air flowing through here. That helps it keep dry. And now you can see that it's very evident now. But once everything gets closed in, obviously everything is black. It's completely dark, and you just won't notice the gaps. The front of the gaps only have a 5 mil, so there'll be another piece of timber here that's only 5 mil gap between that one. Larch doesn't need to be treated at all. It's literally, this is how it comes out of the factory. And you don't do anything to it.
And it goes grey.
Eventually it all turns grey.
Siberian larch, a popular choice of cladding due to its attractive figuring, its excellent durability, high density, and impressive lifespan. When weathered in ideal conditions, the colour changes to a beautifully consistent silver grey.
So it'll just turn a very light grey. That still takes probably, it could take over 6 to 10 years to fully color down, but it slowly kind of uniformly colors down. So we'll have a quick look inside. You can step on the pipe for it. Yeah, so this is the underfloor heating. This sits on 120 mil of rigid insulation. And then obviously there's a 50, actually down here we're going to go with a slightly higher screed to get us over some brackets and a few things that didn't quite work out. Everything ended up being a little bit higher. But that's the good thing about the system, is that now, whatever goes in now, you might have 40 mil cover in one space and you might have 60 in another, but in the end of the day you end up with a completely level floor. It's a floating screed, so it actually just by gravity finds its natural level. They do a few things. They tamp it, not tamp it, but they kind of float it with a little special tool to make sure that it all is level. So if they get this all poured today, we'll be back here on Monday working. We'll be able to walk on it the next day, but you really best staying off of it for 48 hours, and we'll leave it a little bit longer because it's a bit cold. Then we'll be able to finish the stairs. And then we're just waiting on these doors and trim pieces from Eclise. If we had them now, we would literally be installing them straight away so that we could then crack on with the plasterboarding. So that means the plasterboarding is now going to be delayed probably till December at the earliest, which is very annoying. But I've got a call today to find out with the main distributor here in the UK to see if there's any way I can expedite at least some of the materials so that we can crack on with certain bits of it. Here's the second truck for the screed, so we'll head out of here. They're pouring upstairs first, as you can see, so we got the pipes in it. Down this way.
Yeah.
Obviously, plot 8, they'll start erecting plot 8 the last week of November, which is about 3 weeks later than we wanted, but we lost our slot due to some toing and froing with some design bits. Plot 6 is, there's not the same big steel that's in plot 8 and 7 and 9. It doesn't have that big glazed screen, so that's a little bit easier. But I haven't called that one off because that one's not sold. We only have 2 that aren't sold. This one and plot 4. Plot 2, which is the first barn conversion. we're not far off of, you can see they're just still working on the second story there. They're not up to the wall plate yet, and then we can put the get the trusses put on, and then basically we're just waiting on windows in there. They're doing some insulation. They've got some internal framework to do, but by the end of January that should be watertight, and because obviously we're waiting on the rest of the windows, and we'll be doing insulating floors, underfloor heating, all that kind of stuff. So then here we've got plot 3 is externally complete, and they've just been doing a little bit of prep work for the waterproofing tanking system on the outside. And you'll see the far unit there, which is plot 5. That's already got this tanking applied. And what it is basically, it looks kind of rough there, but basically it's got this bituous material that gets painted on. That's the black stuff. And then it has this studded polyurethane thick plastic membrane that is fixed to the outside, and that's like a free draining sort of thing. It just allows any water that gets to that point to drain down to a perimeter drain that surrounds the property. So they're just working now on the rest of the footings going back, because as I mentioned, by the end of November this is all going to be ready for the next SIPS. And then they're just prepping everything here for the final pour on plot 4. So plot 4 they had to do an extra pour. So we've got the damp proof guys installing the water bar, which is it's made of bentonite, and it's basically a material that wherever you have a joint in the concrete, if any water gets to that, it expands greatly and plugs any sort of gaps. But that's just one line of defense. You've got the external membranes, you've got the internal membranes, you've got the perimeter drains, you've got the internal sumps, and you've got the water bars. So if these things ever leak, I will eat my hat. So anyway, they're pouring the last one on Friday, and then they'll drop on to they're going to form some of the footings over here, and then we've got all these these retaining walls that come across here. So there's still a lot of stuff for them to do. They'll still be here for a couple months even. But that's it. So
cool. What have we got to look forward to then?
Good weather, hopefully. Right, that's it for us today. I hope you liked what you saw, and if you want to see more, just keep following us, subscribe, like, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. But up until then, what the hell is that? Like a dog? Put me off. Fucking shut up.